technical difficulties.
We're good. We're here. We're live. We're grooving. We're moving.
I don't know what happened.
No, I know what happened. One of my kids wants to watch this. So she doesn't have Instagram. She's 13. So she's logging on with like one of my other accounts. So it like kicked me off somehow.
Okay. Now at least I know.
Shaina, my dad's
Oh,
here. Say hi, Dad.
oh, hi. How are you?
He's great. So I'm very, very excited about this episode because I think both of us have a very personal relationship with Yocheved. Yocheved's the best. She's awesome. And she has so much wisdom to share.
Yes. You want to tell everyone how you know her and how I know her, and then we're going to bring her on? Can we do that?
Well, let's bring her on and share it together. Because
I'm going to do that.
Right? It's also her story. So
let's do that. Okay, Yocheved. Please enter the live.
Hi. Oh, it's so nice to be with you.
Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
We know you're a busy lady.
Yeah, you got me out of bedtime, so thank you.
Pleasure. That's the
honesty.
Right?
I love talk. Okay.
So,
right. Well,
before we dive in, I think we just want to give a little bit of background on how we connected with you and why we asked you to come on. So, Danit, why don't you share how you know Yocheved, and then I'll share how I know Yocheved, and then we're going to just kind of flow into our topic.
Sure, and Yocheved pipe in at any given moment. The first time we met, and I don't know if you remember, we were about 16, and it was at Manis Friedman's like summer program. I went like with some friends, and you were there. You were in Minnesota, and you just came over on Shabbos just to come like visit. And I remember meeting you. I don't know if you remember meeting me, but I remember meeting you, and I remember thinking, you're much older than us, even though you're not. But you just seemed more mature, like you had it more together. I just remember that I thought you were like an older girl. I was so shocked years later when I found out we were
the same age, yeah.
So that was like the very, very first time. But then I think we have a great story to share, how we really connected.
Yeah.
And that was when we lived in Maui and you came with your family on vacation. And our kids just clicked, and we as couples just clicked, and it was really, I mean, we met thousands and thousands of people over the years, but we didn't like have this chemistry with every single family that came.
It was really special. Yeah. And our boys are still in touch.
To this, I mean, how many years? It's been, when was this that you guys came?
This was about 11 years ago.
Wow.
So Delia was a baby, and we had, yeah. And then you moved to Crown Heights, and you lifted us up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and our boys just stayed friends. It's like really, really special. It really, really is. Yeah. So like, I think Uriah was Schneer's first, like, it was like his first frum friend, you know, the friend who wears tzitzis and a yarmulke, just like him. So that was really cool. So that's our
And they were lamplighters together for a few years, which is also very special.
Yeah. That's, you know, that whole grade was like one brotherhood. That was to this day, they're all friends. They're still friends. They're still close. It's really sweet.
Yeah. So you guys go way back, and I met Yocheved only a year ago, exactly Pesach. A year ago, we went to Spain on a Pesach program, and although I'm good friends with a cousin of Yocheved's, I've heard about you, but I never met you. And I felt such a connection with you because of how grounded you were and how you really understood the somatic experiences that I had gone through with the years of somatic therapy that I did. And there was something about just how centered you were. And I did my first meditation in a public setting was with you, because I've done it privately, but I've never done it publicly. And it was so spiritually uplifting. Yocheved's voice just carried me through, and I had beautiful, beautiful visions of just things that I would never have been able to get to because of where you were able to like just get us to through your wisdom, the Torah portion that you had brought in the Parsha of the week. And I remember afterwards, I was so impacted that I came up to you and I'm going to be personal. I started crying and I opened up to you and you helped me in a way that really impacted me in just how I continue going through my life. It's been a year and
Wow.
something resonated with me that you said that was so powerful. You asked me a question, and that question, I'm not going to talk about it here, has something that whenever I'm not sure which direction I want to go, I'm like, I'm drawn back to that moment on the couch where we sat and talked.
I remember it
It
better.
was
Yeah.
very powerful. And I was so excited when Danit and I were discussing, like, what kind of tools do we want to bring our clientele? And I don't know if you want to call it clientele. We have, not that many followers, but I do think that this does get a lot of YouTube hits afterwards. And although people can't get on right now, it's not like the most like convenient time for people in LA. It's 5 o'clock here. We are uploading it to Spotify and YouTube, and people are sharing it and watching it because I get the insights and we could see. And so I'm so excited that you're here because I think that the whole, we can sit here and bring in the experts of parenting and Rabbanim and people that are inspirational, like, Simon Jacobson and Avi Fishoff. But at the end of the day, if we are not grounded and we are not mindful of how we're parenting and not self-regulated, then our children can't benefit at all from the skills that we're going to give them. And so that's why I thought you'd be such a good asset to this like little teen talk corner. So
Thank
with that,
you. Thank you. That really touches me. Thank you so much. I feel like I have to give like 10 disclaimers about like self-regulation and my parenting. And like, I even said to my kids, Mommy's going to be on an interview about self-regulation and parenting. See there? And they said, Mommy, I hope you can be honest about your struggles. I was like, yes, I will be honest about my struggles. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really beautiful to hold like our aspirations. They become a guiding light for us. So definitely groundedness and a sense of really feeling myself is an aspiration, and it's not always easy, but I'm happy to explore this, and I think the pain points and the parts that aren't easy are also learnings for us, right? So
Well, Yocheved, I have a question for you.
yes.
Before we dig deep, I want to know what type of teenager you were.
Mm.
If you can remember, if
I
you
can
can go back there, if you want to share.
Well, who I was at age 14 was very different than who I was at age 17. Very different in many
Probably
things.
at age 15.
So
Right.
where do you want to hone in? Because there's very different.
Just your temperament. I'm just curious, like, were you, like I'm saying, like me and Shaina, right? We were in high school together and we really were like not exciting. Like we were good kids. We listened to our parents. We didn't, I don't know. The biggest mischief we got up to,
we're not
like,
going to talk about that here.
yeah, not, but I'm saying it's not even that exciting. It's not
No, it
even
wasn't.
like,
Yeah,
No, no.
I was I left home when I was 14. So I went to boarding school. So right away that accelerated my life because I left home, and which meant I had to be more independent. And yeah, it was like a different world to leave Minnesota and go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not that big of a city either, but it definitely felt like there was more opportunity. And I was a very good girl. I'm very achievement oriented. I wanted to be excellent. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to belong. But I also was always attracted to things that were a bit out of the box. So, while I was getting straight olives and straight A's, and I had head of production twice, and I was working and volunteering and all of that, I was still kind of like flirting with the edges of like kind of rebellious behavior. I mean, I think about it now and it's so not rebellious. Like if
right.
you know what I mean? Like it's like so innocent, but in that frame at that time, it felt like, and I can remember the shame that I felt because it did feel innocent in certain ways, but how it was perceived. And even some things like my body was changing and I would be called into the office and like, what's wrong with your uniform skirt? So I don't know what's wrong with my uniform skirt. It's just like the little messages that were like body shaming or shaming around budding sensuality. But I was super, super well liked, had lots of opportunity. And then I left high school after 11th grade. So I was 17 years old in Manhattan, early admission Stern College. And that was that began a very different stage of my teenagehood, which was, I see that my mom is on, there's still things as a 45-year-old person I haven't told my mom.
Yocheved, my dad's here too.
Mom, close your ears. No, like lots of stuff that the truth is that had I had a frame where I really felt safe enough to talk about the things that I was exploring, I probably would have been saved a lot of pain and turmoil. But there was so much shame and stigma around any kind of exploration. I can feel the emotion that I had to really process so much on my own, including some really dysfunctional dynamics. So my my older teenage years were a combination of still being very achievement oriented and like I was always religious. Like there were certain things I would never cross that felt very dear to me, even if people around me were not. But also a lot of risky and boundary pushing behavior that I look back wasn't very safe. I will say that I was blessed with an amazing group of friends, some of whom I'm still friends with. And there's something it's like a gift to have the opportunity to push the edges surrounded by good people. And even though I think now, I'm like, oh my God, like, how did we do that? Like, that's like so dangerous or so not okay or so like, but like we were with each other. I was with Abigail. We were protected. Like I was with good kids. And I think there was obviously something in me that was attracted to good people, and still like thank God I have such good people in my life. And I feel like my kids have also made all kinds of choices, and that's like what I look for. I'm like, who are the people in your life? Like who are who are you attracting?
Yeah. I once heard a saying, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. It's,
Yeah.
like you said, even if you guys are, up to stuff, you were in good company, and it makes a huge difference. It really, really does.
Yeah. And also this is like Chabad, late 90s. This is like close enough to Gimel Tammuz where it's like we were kids who grew up on the Rebbe. Like even though there's like all these kids who grew up in Crown Heights who were like dabbling in all kinds of stuff, but like our core was like these like spiritually seeking, creative, entrepreneurial, invigorating people who now are all doing beautiful things. So like the
Yeah.
core was good.
Like the core is there. Yeah.
The core is there. Exactly.
Right.
So let me ask you something. So what you're describing to me, how would like that your experience as a teenager, how would you say that has impacted you in the way you're parenting your teenagers today?
Okay.
And and how are you different than, let's say, the way that our generation was? I'm curious how, based on what you went through, and because it doesn't sound like you were just like run of the mill in the box kind of teenager. So how did that impact the way you're parenting your teens today?
Okay. So first, just to say, like I have 5 children. I have an 18-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter, 13-year-old daughter, 11-year-old daughter, and a 6-year-old daughter. So just to give like a perspective of.
Okay.
So few things. It was very hard for me growing up, and again, it was different leaving home. My kids are all at home, and I feel like there's a real beauty in having my kids home that I missed out on as a teenager. Like, even though I tell my kids, I still say when I'm visiting my parents, I'm going home. Still, like leaving home at age 14 is just, it's very, very young. And as much as my especially my mother was such a like present force in my life, when you're visiting home 3 times a week, it's just not the same. And I remember being a teenager and I didn't have the emotional understanding of why when I come home I'm angry for the first 2 days. Why does it take me so long to get back into the groove of family life? And then I have this sort of honeymoon period, and then I feel like the visit's slipping away, and then I feel guilty or shameful that I wasn't a good girl since the beginning of the visit. And, you know, whether it was generational or the way we're built, it wasn't like I really had a space to process this with my family, with my mother, or I didn't have a therapist. My kids have been in therapy since they're 12, all of them. You know, I didn't have a therapist. I had no one. The opposite, mental health was very taboo growing up in my family. Like, it was, you know, to say that I would have an issue would be like, you don't say that. So that's one thing already. Like, and I'm like tuning into it. I really feel it. Like, I really feel, and I was also accelerated into this, which I'll share. I really feel that really like drilling it into my kids, like, let's talk about it. I'm here to talk about it. I use language to speak about my feelings. I hear what you're saying. Where do you feel this in your body? I feel shame coming up. I get that you're angry. How do we actually ground our anger? Like, I want to use the kinds of language that I think had I heard as a young person, and again, without blame, but just as awareness, would have greatly impacted me, because I'm a person with big feelings. And I had no idea what to do with my big feelings. It was either blow up, have like rage, or suppress the hard feelings and just push them down. So like learning how to be with feelings, and it doesn't mean that I don't still go into rage or into absencing, right? But this was one place where I'm like, I want to do it differently. Another place is, and again, this could also be a function of leaving home and culture and, you know, the wounds that get carried over time. If there was upset between us, we never really apologized, or we didn't do any restoration work. It's, you get upset, you say hurtful things, and that's it. We get over it. We move on. The visit's short, or, you know, I love you. I know you love me. Like this. And I really felt like, especially when I started doing my own inner work and looking at my own relationships, I don't actually know how to do restoration well. Like, when we're not modeled, I'm sorry, or we're not expected to take accountability, right? Then we don't really, we miss a very critical skill that we can make up, but it's lacking. And so there was something about, like, and again, I struggle with it, but it's something that I keep top of mind of, like, okay, if I had a hard moment with my daughter, it's really uncomfortable for me to revisit it. It's all my conditioning is like, let's just move on. But like, no, can we talk about what happened? Can we create space for that? I'm feeling like I missed the mark somewhere. Like, I want us to talk about it. And if I'm feeling activated, and this is something that I learned, especially from my daughter, Mayan, who's now 16, that it wasn't enough for me to say, Mayan, I can't talk about this right now. Like, I need a break. I had to also say, can we agree when we're going to pick this up again. Like,
I love that.
Yeah. And to say like, okay, so mommy I'm feeling myself getting really activated. Wow. It's really hard for me to stay in connection. I don't want to lose this. Can we try again tomorrow? And I will find you. You have my word that I will find you, because this is important. She may not want to connect with me a day later, but at least I've done my part. And so this is, I would say, yeah, those are two main things, like really trying to create safe spaces. And safe doesn't mean it's not messy, but trying to create safe spaces where we can really talk about our feelings and own what's happening. And stay committed to like the restoration and being in conversation and staying in connection. And like, I don't need to be right, but I want to stay connected. I don't need to be right, but I want to stay connected.
So there's something you just said that I want to point out to some people who just joined, just in case they missed it. I love what you said about it's going to be messy, but at least I can you repeat
it's a safe
that?
space.
But it's a safe space. I love that you said it's going to be messy, because I think that there's so many parents, especially moms, when we're juggling so much, we can never do it perfect. It's never going to be wrapped in a perfect bow. It's not life.
No.
We're dealing with so much of outside distractions and running a home. And a lot of us work outside the home. It's going to be messy. Life is messy. But I love what you said about the safety part of it. That if a child feels safe, even though there's mess and a little bit of, unsettlingness, but at least there's safety. So it doesn't feel scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, life is messy, right? And it's, can I stay committed to you even as it's messy? Can I stay committed to you especially when it's messy?
Right.
And teenagers are messy. Like, we're going through so much. Our identities are shifting, our attachments are shifting, our capacity to emotionally regulate is shifting, right? Our sexuality is shifting, our ideas about the world are shifting. It's messy, and I need that. I crave that center line that's like, I see you, like I'm here with you, like I can feel myself even as you're vacillating. And my husband and I were given like a pretty intense boot camp because my son, who's this beautiful, sensitive, deep, like gorgeous human being,
I
you
agree.
thank you.
We love him.
He was the one that I made my school for, lamplighters, et cetera, and he was not easy to raise in many ways. I was also like, it's the irony. I was so obsessed in creating a perfect world for him that I neglected so many things. But I tried my best, and there's a lot of love between us. But he didn't follow the path of like what I had imagined or designed. Like, it was very clear that he is his own person. And the surrendering to this kid has his own path, and like I just want to be his friend, like not his friend in the sense of like permissive, and no, I'm still his parent, but I want to be his friend. Like, I want to be in your corner. Like, I want to watch you. Like, I want to revel in you. I want to get joy from you. Like, you're cool, you're beautiful, you're sensitive. Like, can I be enamored with you with no agenda? And
A
I know
fan.
I'm not always there, right? But like, that's what I want. And my daughter Mayan, like, by the time Mayan was 12, was radically on her own path. In many ways, including, some, profound challenges in her life. And I mean, what a boot camp, like what this child has brought into our life, as far as I am not in control. I am, even on Instagram? Wow. I am not in control.
Cool.
I need to be ready to look at my stuff
Yeah.
If I'm not ready to look at my stuff, I have no business parenting a child like this. If I'm not ready to be honest about the places where I need to grow up and take ownership, I I'm not going to be able to, she will find her path and I will be left in the dust. And that's very humbling to parent those kinds of children that have so clearly are marching to the beat of their own. I see you both nodding. I feel like you probably both have kids like this as well, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, like I'm here. Yeah, I'm here to I birthed you. I'm here to shepherd you and to mirror you, but like you are a beautiful teacher of mine. And
Absolutely.
I remember having this one like especially profound moment with Mayan, where she shared something with me about like her life and like what she wanted in her life and her like beliefs and stuff. And she was 12 at the time. Where like I really, really felt in that moment that like my dreams for her were just like shattered. Like my innocence in a certain way, like who I thought she was going to be spiritually and Jewishly and religiously, all this.
Isn't that funny though? Isn't that a funny concept?
It,
Isn't it?
but you know what? That we actually have ideas for our kids.
That we
That these
take it
humans,
personal. Also, that we
Hashem
take it
give
personal.
no, but Hashem gives us these human beings. He gives them to us, and
They're
Totally.
gifts.
we're like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. Who are
So
we?
this is why I turned in this moment, because it's exactly this. I was broken. I felt, and it was also other stuff around that exacerbated it. And I literally said, Hashem, Mayan Chaya Bas Yocheved. Like,
Mm.
she's your child. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm not responsible for any of that. Like she's yours. And and so you're gonna show up for her. You're gonna show up for her. You're gonna show yourself in her life. You're gonna do your part as her big papa. you know? And it was such a moment of surrender that I still call upon, because it wasn't a helpless surrender. I wasn't like, God, she's so hard, you take her. I was like, you know what? I have such a surrender and a deep humility right now. Like, she is yours.
I love that.
I am only here to do my part with humility and with like looking at my own stuff, but she is yours. And I think back to those moments, I'm sure gave my parents, probably especially my mother, so much grief. And I think I turned out okay, it's like,
Kinda.
like ironically, but it's like, and I'm sure my mom had a moment like that. It's like, ultimately, we cannot do this alone.
No.
And you were talking about self-regulation and groundedness, like that kind of prayer strengthens the deepest ground. Like that kind of prayer of like, I have a narrative that I control, and I relinquish control and I release that narrative. I touch a deeper part of me that is truer than any story I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's so liberating for any parent whose kids are becoming teenagers and becoming their own people. And sometimes it happens earlier than the teen years. There are some kids that
Yeah.
are just born marching to the beat of their own drum. And I think
Absolutely.
when we relinquish that control and say, okay, they are their own people,
Yeah.
and we can fight it, we can try control it, we can try cage it, or we could embrace it. And like you said, Hashem, step in,
Yes.
please, and
Hashem, step
do
in.
what you gotta do. We will be on the sidelines cheering
And
and
I'm
being
gonna
there.
add and I'm gonna add to that. It's more than just relinquishing control. For me, what I felt was also very empowering was getting to know that child
Oh,
in that space.
Mm.
So not running from it and saying, okay, God, I'm giving up control. This is but it's get to know the child. Who are they?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and how can I connect with them where they
and
are?
I can tell you, if parents, took that step, they will find these kids are awesome.
They're
They
awesome.
are awesome people.
Mm-hmm.
They're so cool. And it's like, I can't even take the credit because they just, right? Like they just, you know, like you look at your kids and you're like, you guys are such awesome people. And, but I don't think, I didn't really do much to make that. I mean, I was here, you know, but like, look at who you're becoming because we're giving you that space.
And that's what's beautiful, though. It's the space, it's the awareness, and it is the ancestral line. Like there is something that's getting passed through, and it is important. And it may not be available to them as teenagers, but it is important. It's like there is a whole chain of wisdom that's being passed through. There's a whole chain of resilience, a whole chain of courage and joy. And we, in our hardest parenting moments, because they come up, right, so much, we can feel like I am not parenting alone. It's not just like looking up, it's also like rooting down. I have wisdom of my ancestors, of generations of mothers before me who walked through the fire, right, and who didn't do it perfectly, and showed up. And I feel the importance of both of that. It's like I'm part of a chain, and there's something bigger, and the child itself is its own whole world, its own vessel.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we celebrate that and they see that we're celebrating it, it's so good for them. It's so like in our minds, it's like, hold on, you're not who I planned you should be or who I envisioned you, but look at who you are. Wow.
I think it's hard also, I mean, just to like it is hard in religious communities to embrace this in many ways, because we do live in environments that are saturated with certain kinds of expectations, and you know, which just underlines the importance of loving our kids as they are, because there's already messaging for any of those kids who don't fit into the box. There's subtle messaging already that they're doing it wrong.
Correct.
They're doing it wrong. And this also means that we have to sit with the parts of us that feel like, are they doing it wrong? Am I doing it wrong? And that could be challenging. You know, we live in Crown Heights, and I'm not gonna pretend that it's always easy to feel like, you know, I have just like that my kids, my teenagers obviously don't go to like Lubavitch schools, obviously are not yeshiva kids, obviously, and it's like, yeah, sometimes I have to sit with that part of me that can love them up and still feels a little, you know.
You know,
Huh?
you know what?
Like there's like still like the society, culture, conditioning, and like and
But I
and
think
again, this
that's
is
our stuff.
yeah,
That's
I was
our
about to
stuff.
say, this is an
Yeah.
unintegrated part of me.
Yeah.
And I think this was, you know, I remember one of my, like, we were talking about being a teenager, so I was 14. And so I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, very small Chabad community, very like mostly shluchim. And my parents are Iranian immigrants, had their own path with Judaism. And I have a Persian name, Elham, which I was called by Elham my whole childhood.
I did not know that.
Yes, my name is Elham. And so growing up, you know, your name is Elham and everyone else is like Khani and Chaya, and like, you know, and your parents,
No, not
yeah,
Mushki.
yeah,
Yeah, not yet. That came later.
yeah, you know, exactly, before Mushki, but still there was, and then, and, you know, everyone looks a certain way, and everyone's father is a shliach, and everyone's mother is, you know, and my parents did not look the part. And I remember going to Camp Emunah when I was 14, which was probably one of the best things that my mother did, my parents did for me as a teenager. And I had the best time at Camp Emunah. For anyone who there is like a part of the Emunah family. And so much leadership, so much opportunity to shine, etc. And I told everyone my name is Yocheved.
Wow.
That was the first time I was like, no one here knows who Elham is. I am Yocheved.
Wow.
And it was a turning point in my life. I've since done so much. Like, I love Elham. I love who Elham is, and I love the name Elham, and I love where I come from, and I feel so deeply connected to my Iranian roots and so proud. And this is also a result of a lot of healing work. But a big part of my stuff is the belonging and the pain of not belonging and the fantasy that, like, if I belonged, if I had like the stamp of approval from my community, that somehow things would be different. And so, yeah, there's a different edge. And it's so interesting because the things that I felt pain about growing up, I've like inflicted the same pain on my kids.
Right.
Like,
isn't that interesting?
It's like, Mommy, why can't you just look normal? Could you please like why do you give us weird names? I'm like, what's weird about, like...
But there's something you said earlier that I wanna like circle back on. You said about, you mentioned your son and then you mentioned your daughter, and you said that you realized in those moments that you were going to have to shift, that you were going to have to do the work. I want to know if you could elaborate a little bit more, so that I think that there's still, I know that this generation of parents, we are a lot more self-aware than our parents were. I know that. But I also know that a lot of parents want a quick fix my kid. Let me threaten them so that they'll behave in the way that I want them to. And I feel like there's not enough talk about the inner work that gets done on ourselves in order for our children to be the best versions of themselves and give them that support. And so if you can talk about that a little bit more, it doesn't have to be personal if you don't want to get too personal, because I don't know how personal you want to go. But I feel that there's not enough talk about what does that inner work look like as a mom when you're struggling with a child who's not fitting in the mold and doing what they're supposed to do and having their own sense of, struggles and challenges, because we can't fix these kids. We do need to look at ourselves. And that's what I
Get
think.
over ourselves. We have to
And
get over ourselves. That's a
right.
huge part of it.
But the work is inside. It's in us. And that's where I think the self-regulation comes in, where we're parenting from a place of reaction versus, like, I don't know the opposite term for in a parenting setting. It's going to come to me in a minute, but the reactions is what I know that was my default for so many years. If something happens, react. And that's where I know that is where the work is. So I want to know if you would talk about that a little bit more to the audience and to.
Sure. So,
Oh, Sarah Mayberg said is response, correct? That's one word, respond instead of react. But it's even more than just response. It's almost like it's not even so much response. Not everything needs a response.
well, it's like
Sometimes
groundedness, right? It's like
it's more of just like
like a
maybe
grounded
observing and saying,
mm,
oh, wait, what's my role here?
awareness also. Yeah. Well, it's a few things that are coming up for me in response to what you're asking. I had the blessing, the circumstance of going through two of the hardest moments of my life concurrently. One was the closing of my school lamplighters, with my 12-year-old daughter having a profound mental health crisis at the same time. I mean, literally at the same time. So I was catapulted into the big leagues of having to sit with a tsunami of grief at the same time and of letting go. And when one is confronted with so much, with like my child suffering so much. You know, it's so easy to go to as a parent. It's all my fault. I screwed up. I missed the ball. I missed the cues. And I've learned that so much of forgiveness is actually allowing ourselves to experience the grief, is experiencing the loss. And each one of us as parents walks with that sort of the shadow of our desires and our hopes for our kids. And when they're young, we've written a contract, we've signed a contract, like as newborns, I will take care of you. I will be there for you. I will change your diapers. I will feed you. You can count on me. I hold you. I got you. And at some point, that contract shifts where I got you and I'm here for you, but it's not on my terms anymore. And the shifting of that contract includes, I think, radical ownership of our own stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And it includes grief and loss of the shifting of the contract. Of like, you are on your own path, and I cannot protect you from pain. I promised you I would protect you from pain, and I did for a very long time. But now I can no longer protect you from pain because you're growing up. And that's very hard for us to be with as parents, because none of us ever want to see our kids go through pain, right?
No.
Even if we know it's good for them, they're moving through something, it's a growth spurt, it's a challenge, but we don't want to see our kids.
Right.
Yeah.
No, our job is to protect.
Right. But that job shifts at some point.
Yeah.
And I think so to be able to hold that grief takes an inner spaciousness, takes a certain kind of work, of the grind, really sitting with our stuff. And because of this like double whammy tsunami of what I was going through, I was very deep into my own therapy. So at some point, I was seeing my therapist twice a week and my somatic therapist once a week. So 3 times a week therapy. Plus I had to see a family therapist. Plus I had my meditation practice. Plus I had my trauma. And it was like, I needed that level of support. Like I needed that triage to be able to move through what I was moving through. And yeah, like we're going to sit with hard stuff. We're going to sit with hard stuff about my own childhood and my own grief and my own perfectionism and my own absencing and numbing, and the places where I wasn't met as a child, and the places where I don't meet my child, and the places where I look away, and the places, and that it's not easy. It's not easy. But it's like, it softens us, you know, like it softens us to do that work, softens us. And then it's like, and then the lessons start to come, you know, and I feel like that's kind of the gift of going through that really hard time of just like, we've been through hard stuff together. We've had to do the inner work and I had to really sit through hearing like hard, like receiving hard reflections about where my parenting missed the mark, you know, where our parenting missed the mark. And I had to hear that also with a grain of salt, right? Also connected with my own sense of self-worth and like my own sense of I did my best. Even if it wasn't perfect, I'm trying my best, you know, which I know is true about myself. It's not perfect and I'm trying my best. So I'm very encouraging of people to be in therapy, be in positive relational spaces, go like feed yourself, have a friend who really listens to you without an agenda, who's also willing to reflect, you know, prioritize self-care. Like I wake up in the morning, I don't see my 6-year-old. She goes to school with other people in the house. I wake up and I sit in my chair every morning for 15 minutes and I start my day with my meditation. It's my way to nurture myself. And how can we each prioritize those things that really nurture ourselves? And like the conditioning of our mothers that like it's selfish to take care of ourselves. Like, no, like it's not selfish to take care of ourselves. Like that's the only way we can do this. We actually really, and what a model also, especially for those of us who have daughters, but also sons. Like a mom who's connected to her desires. Like I want to feel good. I want to be connected to those things that give me like juice and excitement and pleasure in life. Like, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that I don't think we ever grew up on, even hearing the word self-care. When my kids were young, I don't think I knew what that word meant. Um,
I would get triggered when I would hear it. I'm like, what are you talking
I
about
didn't
self-care?
hear, I heard the
A
first time I
manicure?
heard the
Like,
word self-care, I was 32 years old. The first time I heard the word self-care, my therapist
Wow.
asked me, I went through something major in my life and I threw myself into therapy for the first time in, I couldn't remember how long. And she asked me, you have 4 small children. When did you last do self-care? I said, what? I said, what are you
Wait, what is
talking
that?
about? I said, what are you talking about? She goes, self-care, when you take care of yourself and do something that's good for you. I'm like, can you give me an example?
like, what does that look
And
like?
she's like, okay, when was last time you went to the gym? And I said, oh, I take my son in the stroller. We go walking in the morning. And she's like, no, 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 like by yourself. And I'm like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
How about you, Yocheved? Was this something that came naturally to you? Like to take care of yourself? No? This was from the school of hard knocks. That's
No way. No way. I I my mother, may she live and be well, is one of the most selfless, hardworking, chesed oriented, always taking care of other people. And, you know, she can speak for herself about what it is to live like that. I have impressions of that as a daughter, what it felt like, and which was like, if I would have seen my mom like actually take care of herself, it would have. I used to fantasize about that. Like, I
Really?
remember I was 10 years old and I created a PowerPoint presentation trying to convince my parents to go on a vacation. And it was
wow.
because so it's not just like, oh, I take care of myself because I'm important and it's important for me to be able to like, no, I'm modeling to my daughter, I'm modeling to my grandchildren right now.
Oh,
My
wow.
grandchildren are benefiting from me actually taking care of my emotional, physical, mental, spiritual health. My grandchildren are benefiting from it.
Right. Oh, I love that. I
That's
love that.
powerful. That's very powerful.
It's true. It's just not something most of us did not grow up with that. We didn't. So we had to figure this out the
And also
really
to
hard
be
way.
subtle, I just want to say also, because I feel like sometimes we can go into this like black and white kind of thinking of like self-care means that like, you know, it could really be subtle. Like I'm sitting in my chair and I'm putting on my favorite song and I love this song.
Mm.
I'm and my husband modeled a lot of this. Like I'm lighting a candle because it smells good. You know, I'm enjoying some tea. Like there's flowers on it, whatever it is. Like I'm my daughter came home from school today and I had a friend over, and you know I could be like, okay, my daughter's home, like I have to get into mom mode right away, she's 16. It's like, mommy's enjoying some friendship time, I'll be right there. Let her feel that friendship time is important. Friendship time is important in our lives.
Mm.
And if
Mm.
I can stop and like frame it for her as like I'm busy, can you leave me alone? I
Right.
mean, sometimes I say that, but also it's like, wait, friendship time. There's a concept here of me being nourished in interpersonal spaces that's like that I can prioritize.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. No, it's funny because my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, she was telling me, she's like, Mommy, I really like your friends. You have really
Mhm.
nice friends. And it's like, I never thought that my kids see my friends and think about my friends. Like, they have their own lives. But, and then I thought, wow, like they're seeing me and my life and what I'm doing. And it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. They see it. They see what's there and what's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
wow.
So I really love that we brought up the self-care because I do think that's such an important tool in our box, but we only have a few more minutes left before we get knocked off. Is there any other tool that you can talk about when it comes to self-regulation?
Hmm.
What can you describe when you hear of self-regulation? Because it is, for everyone it's different. But what is something that you found helpful when it comes to self-regulation in, you know, whether it's
Seeing your kid do something crazy, hearing they did something crazy, them telling you, or just seeing what's going on that was not in your plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like pausing is a very big one. Like I've
Mhm.
learned to just breathe and pause, and also like, through my meditation practice I've really learned like how to attune the breath to different parts of my body. So just like sending a breath to like my lower chakras, like to my roots more, and like allowing that part of me, almost like there's a mouth down there to breathe, like breathe.
Love that.
I love the word pause because I feel like when it comes to self-regulation, pausing even it doesn't even just apply to parenting, which is it's like a skill for life in everything. And it's such a small word. I thought you were going to give us a whole
No,
description, and I'm like,
no, no,
oh,
just
I
pause.
love the word pause. I love it.
Yeah. And I would say like within the pause, and this could be made verbally or just something that we're like attuning to. There's like I'm committed to stay with life. Like I'm committed to stay. Like because I feel like in the hard moments
I'm
we
out of here.
I'm out of here, which has served us, which is intelligent, which is our defense mechanisms, which we have to honor and bring compassion to, and all of that. And I feel like even just like that, it's like a muscle of like I'm here, like I'm like I'm staying, I'm like I'm here.
It's hard and it's messy, and I
Hard,
don't like it,
yeah, yeah,
but I'm
I don't
here.
like it. And
There's that
that's
word
the
again.
safety, and that's the safety. The safety is like is the here-ness. It's like the hineni, right? Like hineni, hineni.
I'm here.
It's hard. It's I'm here. And I feel like that's the ground for secure relationships. Like I'm here.
So easy, so simple. Not easy,
So
so simple. Pause. That's like the hugest takeaway. It's like in all our relationships, like we should all walk away and pause before any reaction and hineni. I ain't going anywhere. I am here.
I'm here. Yeah.
I
That's
love that.
right,
I'm
right.
so happy that we asked you to come on today because
Aww.
the purpose of doing this is really just about showing up for parents. I think that, I think all three of us can say that we've all been on a journey with our teenagers.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could feel very, very alone and it could, or feel lonely. And I wanted a platform where parents could tune in and just know they're not alone.
Yeah.
And at the same time, get a little bit inspiration and a
Mm.
little bit of a skill, a tool, a
Something,
story, something to walk away with that their week will just be a little bit more breathable so
right?
that they can go to the next week and know, wait, I have teenagers, there's challenges, and there's I'm not alone, and there's also people out there who could help.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother, when she lived in Bubel, when she would see me in my hard moments with any of my kids, she would say, Humishan, meaning like they'll be
Oh,
good, they'll be good. Humishan, like they'll be good.
love that.
And it's like and it's just like the simple bitachon faith of like they'll be good, you know, and like,
And she's right.
and
She's right.
she's right, and when they're not, and when they need help, we get them the support, and we learn, and we grow, and we move, and
How do you, what are
Hashem,
the words?
Is that
Say
is
the
that
words.
is that
Chub Mishan, that's
is that
Persian.
Farsi?
Yeah,
Persian? You
Chub,
speak Farsi?
good, Chub Mishan. Yeah,
Mishan.
Chub Mishan.
That's going to
I
be my
didn't.
new.
Are you fluent in Farsi?
I am absolutely not fluent in Farsi.
But
But as
Yocheved,
a young child, especially, I spoke more. But yeah.
thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
I
Thank
feel
So
you.
great.
like just so full from this conversation, and I'm sure whoever is watching also
Thank
just
We're
learned
gonna
you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
save the before we get knocked off. We are gonna save this live, and we're gonna upload it to YouTube and to Spotify, so it can be listened in the car, or if you're getting, you know, you're going for a walk and you want to put your AirPods in. I think that, you know, the live is just a
Platform.
platform, but really it's going to be shared, and thank God Danit and I are learning how to use Instagram. We're looking at the insights that we get, and we're like, oh,
Well,
people are sharing,
Right.
and it's the feedback we're getting is very, very special. And I just want to thank you again for taking your time out from your bedtime. Thank your kids
Yeah,
from us,
you're
Yocheved, I'm sure it
welcome.
was
and
really
thank
hard.
and Yassi,
Very
thank
hard,
Yassi.
yes. I'll
Yeah,
make yes,
tell
yes,
Yassi
yeah.
thank
Shout
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
out to
Thank you
Yossi.
so
Thank
much for
you.
having me. It was beautiful to be with you both. So much love and respect and just deep admiration and care for you both. So
Right
thank
back
you.
at you.
And
Mwah.
hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yes,
Here's to Shem.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Bye. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Bye, guys. Thank you for joining in.